Good afternoon. Michael E. Garza for eXp Realty in San Ramon, coming to you live from the marina at Glen Cove. Today we're going to be answering a question in our series, Words from the Big Chair, and it's Ask Mike Day. So I've been getting a lot of questions based on the last video that I made, which was the events at the Fed meeting and what the Fed's projected plan of action is in regards to interest rates. I've been getting a lot of questions as to why is that important. So let me see if I can go over that as I understand it. The Fed is a non-governmental entity. The entire reason for the Fed's existence is to control inflation. There's a few other mandates that they have, but that's the big one, is inflationary control. What does that mean? Well, inflation is what makes a loaf of bread cost go from $1 to $5. That's an inflationary problem. So the Fed's job is to control that. Now, if you haven't been living under a rock for the last few years, you'll know that interest rates from the Fed, even just 3 years ago, were 0.25% to 0.5%. And what that does is that controls what the banks can charge. The banks are limited to charging only a certain amount over what the Fed rate is. So it's a control for the banks so that they can't charge 50% interest on a home loan, for example. They're limited to just a couple of percentage points over. So for example, when the Fed was charging 0.25% interest, the banks were getting the home loans at 2.875 if you had really good credit and a good down payment. Right now, the Fed is at 5.5%, which means that a good home loan right now is 7.25% or 7.5%. And ironically, a good home loan back in the 80s or early 90s was 11% or 13%. So just keep that in mind. Of course, home values were a quarter then of what they are now, so that counts too. At any rate, so right now the Fed has been talking about cutting interest rates or beginning to cut interest rates. Now, the original plan from last year was to start cutting interest rates, and there was going to be 3 rate cuts this year. Well, inflation and the inflationary reports and the numbers just didn't make the Fed chairman, Jerome Powell, or any member of the committee, because there's different members of the committee from all around the country. It didn't make them feel comfortable enough to cut rates at all for a while there. They were talking about. Now they're discussing maybe making a single cut this year and as many as 3 cuts next year. And so why is this important? Well, if they cut interest rates from 5.5%, then that means that your loan is going to be less expensive for you. So if you have a specific budget for a monthly payment, like most people do, the less that you have to pay for the loan, the more house you can buy. So, and people at the bottom spectrum, they're just literally priced out right now, because as soon as rates went up, the bottom end of home buyers, they couldn't do it at all anymore. So as the Fed cuts rates, the banks will cut rates, and those people will be back in the market. Now, the problem there is that if you're a buyer, the more people in the market, the more expensive a house is going to be. You've all been down this road. You get into bidding wars and all that kind of nonsense. So if you're looking to buy, even though the rates are high right now, that could be seen as an advantage for a buyer, because it's filtered out a lot of people out of the market. As a seller, we're expecting a pretty good August and September this year. If they cut rates, that's going to bring buyers out. And if that brings buyers out, there's still pent-up demand. People are still going to want your house. And as a seller, the more people that want your house, the better. So at any rate, I hope that answers the basic questions of what the Fed does and why it's important to somebody in the real estate market, whether you're selling or buying. Once again, Michael E. Garza for eXp Realty here in San Ramon, coming to you live once again from the Glen Cove Marina in beautiful Glen Cove, California. All right, have a great day, and I'll talk to you again in a couple of days. Bye-bye.